Vayishlach Yaakov malachim lefonav Esav. The parsha starts off that Yaakov sends malachim, angels. Rashi writes malachim mamash, little angels. The previous parsha. In the previous parsha, it talks about that Yaakov encountered the malachim. So a continuation of the angels that we just finished speaking about. That's how Rashi knows that it's continuous. That Vivka Malach Alakim, he met Malach Alakim in last week's parsha. So therefore, he sends these angels, the fun of El Esav Achiv. He sends El Esav Achiv, the double language. El Esav Achiv, Esav's his brother, is explained. Esav is the little person, Esav, or the sire Shel Esav, the prince of Esav, and Achiv actually means literally his brother. Anyways, Yaakov is, after many years, he's coming back to encounter his brother, and he's worried. He's worried. He's uncertain. He's afraid. He's afraid that he will be killed, or he will have to kill. He's afraid that maybe not for himself, because he has a blessing. Shaticha, Hashem says he'll watch him. Maybe for his family. But there's a sense that he's going into a very a very dangerous place, where he's going to encounter his brother. And what he does to diffuse a little bit this tension is he sends angels. He sends Malachim Mamash, Michal, Mishal, Riel, Shaniel. He sends these angels. And he sends them to Esav. So the Baal Shem Tov writes a very small teaching, and we'll try to unpack what the Baal Shem Tov writes. Vayishlach malachim, Yaakov sends angels. So the Baal Shem writes, Ashchina nikra Yaakov. Shchina is called Yaakov. What does it mean? It's just like this. Shchina is Yaakov, he hu Ashchina. Ki Yud, the name of Yaakov, has 4 Hebrew letters: Yud, Ayin, Kuf, and a Vez. Yud is 10. So Yud is the 10. The 10 potentials, or 10 sfirot, Shenislabish b'zayin yimei binyan, which vested themselves into the 7 days of creation, which correspond to the 7 emotional attributes, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yisod, and Malchus. So when the 10 become vested into the 7, you have the number 70. So Yud, 10 becomes Ayin, which is 70. However, says the Baal Shem, this is the student is writing, the Talmud Yaakov Yosef. Ve'emes es spheres kol echad kolam mi Yud hu Kuf. The truth is that these 10 have really 10. And the full amount of the spheres is 10. So 10 times 10 is 100. Okay, so let's make this clear. What the Baal Shem Tov is saying is that the Yud, Ayin, Kuf, the first 3 letters of his name, Yud is 10. That's the 10 spheres that become fully vested into the 7 emotional spheres that is connected with creation. Sunday is connected to Chesed, Monday is connected to Gevurah. These 7 have the fullness of 10, so they're 70. That's the Ayin, which is the 70 number in his name. Kuf is the 100, which corresponds to the fullness of all the 10 spheres when they all have 10 within them for the total number of 100. What is the Beis? The last letter of his name, Yaakov, Beis, is bina. And he sends malachim, bina is understanding. He sends malachim to his brother in the world of Asiya. This is just what the Baal Shem Tov says. We have to try to understand this a little bit. But in simple language, before we understand the depth of what he's saying, he's just saying like this, that Yaakov is coming to encounter his brother Esav. Esav represents the world of Asiya, the world of the physicality, the world of constriction, of limitation, of concealment, the place of darkness. That's what Esav represents. Yaakov is now going to encounter Esav. So he's going into that perilous, into that dangerous, into that dark space to go and encounter the prince of Esav, and Esav actually his brother. And to do that, he needs the fullness of his name, which is the fullness of the Sfirot, Yud 10, 77 times 10, plus the 100, which is Kuf, and to draw down light into this situation, into this darkness, into this concealment, he needs bina, which is comprehension and understanding. What does this mean? What does it actually mean? So the truth is that this is a very big Torah in the Torah of Baal Shem. This is a very big teaching in the teachings of Baal Shem. Baal Shem HaKadosh writes many times, and he teaches this many times, that there's something that's called Takas Din, to Sweeten Din. Din means constriction. Constriction means that there's some type of constriction in your life. It could be something's not working out between you and a friend of yours. You're not having proper livelihood, parnasa. Your relationships are not going well. You feel in general in a state of katnus, of constriction. Your mind is cloudy and blurry and you live in ambiguity. That's din. Din is a state of reality where everything seems limited, everything seems small. There's no openness, there's no expansiveness, there's no feeling of light. Everything feels dark and small. That's the idea of din. When a person suffers in this world, that's din. Something bad happens to somebody, and they experience as hardship, then they translate that hardship and become suffering. That's din. How do you sweeten din? How do you break open din? How do you take din, the din in your life, the constriction in your life, and make it into something that's sweet? How do you transform it? So the Baal Shem writes that this is what prayer is. What is prayer? What is tefillah? Shoyesh tefillah. And again, in Ben Preis of the Baal Shem, the student of the Baal Shem writes, Shoyesh tefillah, the whole shoyesh, the root of the idea of davening, of prayer, is lekasher din hamalchus, to unify the din, the constriction that exists within the world of malchus. Malchus is also considered din. Malchus is also considered the world as is. And to transform the dinim, the constriction at its source, which is through the world of bina, because bina is also connected to din, because din is deciphering and breaking things apart and understanding it. Lahav and Davar, Masech David, to understand one thing within the next, is a form of dissecting, which is also a form of din. This is the whole idea of prayer. This is what prayer is. Davening is to makasher din al malchus, prayer is to connect din of malchus and to sweeten the din through bina. What does this mean? What does this mean? One other teaching before we understand this. The Baal Shem said like this. So another book, Ksaidas Pasim, also from the Taldas, and he says like this: if a person sees if a person is a side katnus, person is in the secret of smallness, of constriction, they experience constricted mind, constricted consciousness. That is, that when he's trying to pray, he's trying to focus on davening, other thoughts keep on coming in. They don't feel an expansion of mind. They feel a constriction of mind, and one thing jumps to the next, like a child. One thought, and then another thought, and then another thought. There's no settle. There's no yeshiva das. There's no settling of the mind. A person can't focus. What should a person do? Then a person should read and pray like a child would read from a book, from the letters of the book, from the letters of the page. And the Baal Shem Tov says that he was once like this. Once when he was in a distant country, which is, we assume that this is when he was in Turkey. He came to a point where he was in such constriction, the Baal Shem Tov wrote and said on himself, that he even forgot how to pray, and certainly forgot all the intentions of how to pray. And what did he do? He connected himself with the actual letters of the words, just the letters. And he says, when a person prays, davens from the letters, and is medavik, he cleaves to the letters, to the letters himself. Then he elevates the world of Asiya. Ki Tevas Ksav, the word Ksav, which means the written word, is an acronym. Keser Shal Malchus Tov. The Kaf Taf is Keser of Malchus, which is sweetened ayedei bina. Again, the idea of bina. What does this mean? What does this mean? This means like this. This is a more ridiculous teaching. Baal Shem Tov is saying something very fascinating. When you look at a page, open any book. You open a book. You open a sefer. You open it, and you look at pages on the letters and words on a page. Before you read them, before somebody reads these words on a page, the letters themselves are dead. It's total din, total constriction. If you open a book, any book, before you read it, it's just printed letters on a page. It means nothing, and it suggests nothing. The only time it becomes actually something that's intelligent and becomes alive is when a person reads it. So when you read, let's say you're reading Tehillim, or reading something that's written. Before you read it, the letters themselves, the oisius themselves, is in total state of darkness, constriction. What happens when a person reads them? When a person reads them, they're bringing life and vitality to this page. Everything in this world, there's a sefer and a sefer and a sefer. Sefer Yitzir says. There's a scribe and there's two books. There's different versions how Sefer Yitzir has this. But one of the versions of the Gra is sefer, and sefer. The scribe and the two books. The scribe and two books means it's the creator. The creator creates a book. The book is life. That's one sefer. We receive that book. And that book, when we receive it, the way we read it, that's the way it will become animated to us. The way the creator creates it, just like, for example, a person writes a book. You write a book. You put your intentions in the book and you write the book. Now it's just letters on a page. Now a second person comes and reads the book. That person reading the book now enlivens the text with their own machshavas, with their own thoughts. The person that wrote the book had one intention. And the intention was given over in this page. Let's say a painting. It's an easier example. Let's say an artist paints a piece of art. The artist has an idea of what this art should be. There's a certain aliveness of the art in the artist's mind. He projects it onto a canvas, and that's his story that he just put onto the canvas. And then 10 people look at this page, at this piece of art. Each person, through their own prism, enlivens the piece of art according to the way they understand life. So their bina, their understanding of life, is what gives animation to this picture. This is what the Baal Shem Tov is saying about Ksav. Ksav, what happens like this? A person is in a constricted place. Let's say rightfully or wrongfully, whatever the situation, a person is now in a state of constriction, or they're facing a lot of din in their life. You want to sweeten the din? Says Baal Shem Tov, you want to sweeten the din? Bring bina into the equation. Bring understanding. For example, if you open up a book of Tehillim, or you're davening, and you're in a state of constriction, and you need to find light because you're in a state of darkness. The situation is very dark. The situation is existentially stifling, and you're not sure what's going to be, and you're living this big ambiguity. Take a sefer, take a book, take a siddur, and start davening, and have a little kavanah what you're doing. Because when you're going to have kavanah and reading this page, before you read the page was din. You, through your bina, through your understanding, now enliven this page. You just gave it a chiyas. You just mamtik. You just sweetened the din of the oisius. The oisius on themselves were completely in a state of constriction. And now by you reading these letters and malchus in this external space, and what that does, it then has an effect on you. Just like the letters on the page were in a state of constriction, and through your bina of understanding it, you enliven this text, and now the text, there's amtakas adin on the page. What happens now is you just sweeten your own din, because you're also in a state of constriction, And what does it mean that you're in a state of constriction? That you were viewing life from a place of katnas, from din. Everything that you saw seemed dark and bleak and without hope and no possibility. That's the way you're looking at life. Because it was constriction. Constriction means that every single thing is separate from the next thing. There's no interconnectivity. Everything seems limited and detailed, and you don't see any wholeness to anything. Then you read the Siddur, you do tefillah just by reading the words, or just chanting the words, because chanting is the same form. What you're doing is not in Esav. You're doing it with letters, because the letters on their own. Ah means nothing, ba means nothing, but av means something. When you say the av means nothing. The Beis means nothing, but if you take the Aleph and the Beis and put it together, it means father. So by vocalizing the word Av, you just enliven the letters of Aleph and Beis. And by enlivening the letters, you are Mamtik the din of the Oisius. You are Mamtik you are sweetening the constriction of these letters. By sweetening the constriction of the letters that happens in the external reality through your own projection of your own bina, that has an actually effect on your consciousness. That you also now create an Amtak Zadin for your own self. And this is what the Baal Shem Tov said that it happened to him in Turkey. When he was in a place of katnas, that he forgot how to read, or if he forgot what the words mean, and he was in a state that he barely knew. So he asked one of the students to just chant for him Aleph Beis, just say the Aleph Beis. He started saying the Aleph Beis, and then he started making words out of them. And by creating the vocalizing of the sounds of the Aleph Beis that created an Amtak Zadin in the Aleph Beis, that created a breakthrough in his own consciousness. He was able to have godless. And this is what Baal Shem Tov is saying. This is what happens to Yaakov and Esav. Yaakov is not going. Yaakov is Yun Ayin Kof Bina, and he's going down into Esav. He wants to shine a little bina understanding into the situation of the constriction that he's going into, because he understands that the constriction, any situation that we have, the reason why the reason why we perceive things in a way that seems katnas is because there's no bina. Because our minds don't grasp what's happening here. What's the difference between, let's say, for example, between a child that has to go through an operation, God forbid, and the parent that has to let the child go through an operation, or not an operation, let's say a needle. The child doesn't understand why the doctor is giving him the needle. The adult understands that the needle there is only for their own benefit. So the moment you have bina, you have less pain. The more bina you have, the more understanding you have of what's going on and why you're experiencing these things, the less constriction there is, less katnas. So constriction only comes because there's no bina. And this is what Baal Shem says. This is l'shem yichud kutsher bricha and shchinte. This is what the yichud of kutsher bricha and shchinte is. The unification between kutsher bricha and shchinte is this yichud, the yichud between bina and malchus, to draw down intelligence and mindfulness and understanding of the situation that allows for the situation to break open. And the more bina we have, the less constriction we have. So if we can do this on a top-down level, which means without any mediums, you're in a situation that you're in a state of katnas, and you're in a state of constriction, and there's limitations, and you're going to a place of katnas, then you have to try to bring in the bina, try to understand what's going on. Why is this happening to me? What's the purpose of this thing? What can I learn from this thing? How is this bettering me? The more bina you're going to have in the situation, the less katnas it's going to be. And if you feel that you're in such a state of katnas that you need an extra stimulant, something to spark that opening, because your mind is in a state of katnas as well. So the Baal Shem says, then say Tillim. Just the art of saying Tillim, for example. Just by reciting the words, Mimala comes from the word breaking. If you want to break the Gvura, you just have to say the words of Tillim. Why? Because just by chanting, vocalizing sounds on a dead page, where the letters are separate from each other, where the Aleph is not connected to the Beis, and the Beis is not connected to the Gimel, they're just letters on a page. It's just a sefer. And you enlivening them, you're creating Amtak Zadin on the sefer. And by creating the Amtak Zadin outside of you, that has an effect inside of you as well. And you can create an Amtak Zadin within your own life. And this is the derech, this is the path of the Baal Shem Tov for Amtak Zadinim. In the path of there is Amtak Zadinim, the sweetening of the din, is a lot of deep michudim, different meditations, and different kavanas, and different shemas, and all different types of high-level madregas, high-level things. But according to the simple teachings of the Baal Shem, it's a shaykh to every single person. Amtak Zadin is a very simple thing. You have din, say Tillim. Just simple meaning of the words of Tillim, the vocalizing of Tillim, is going to open you up. If you have katnus, take something that is in a state of katnus and bring in some bina. If you can bring bina into that state of katnus, then you're doing amtakas adin of that thing, and the thing that you're relating to, and that will create amtakas adin in your own life. Anytime, just try to bring a little bina. If it's through reading, through learning, through singing a niggin, anything that you're going to do that can bring bina into the situation, you're going to do amtakas adin. And this is what Yaakov wants to do. Yaakov is sending malachim al Esav. Yaakov is trying to bring the bina into Esav. Esav is in a state of constriction. Esav represents the state of katnus, which you're going to see later, which he says he actually called this as the state of katnus, which is en matoyo also, the world of chaos. And that's why Yaakov divides everything in two, because it's a world of separation. That's the definition of katnus. Katnus comes from the word kat, which means broken. That's a cotton. The definition of a cotton is someone that's broken. Broken doesn't mean like, I'm not talking about emotionally broken, but kat means that their attention is broken because they can't think through a process for a longer period of time. They're playing with a toy. Next thing is pizza. Next thing is ice cream. Every single second is another thing. They're jumping from one thing to the next. That's the definition of katnus. And this idea of katnus is constriction. Esav experiences this. And therefore Esav, when Yaakov wants to encounter, he finally divides everything into two or to four. Everything is in division into many. Why? Because that's the way he's going to greet Esav in the state of katnus. But before that, before he realized that that Esav is coming with 400 people, 400 men and which is like the godless of katnus, the greatness of katnus, like it's malchus in its full form. Like the Baal Shem Tov said that Esav, Tov is malchus, 400 is malchus, which is also corresponding to Ayin Har, which is 400. But the whole idea of the 400 is like a very big number, which is Olam Matoyo. When Yaakov sees that he's not ready to have any godless, any bina in katnus, then Yaakov figures out another plan. Then maybe he has to go through another path in order to get into Esav and to transform that situation that he has to go. But originally, the original plan of Yaakov was Vayishlach Yaakov malachim. He sends the angels. What's the idea of Vayishlach malachim? Says the Baal Shem Tov very simply. He's sending the energy. He's sending the bina into malchus. And when he sends the bina into malchus, the mind, the consciousness, the mindfulness into the situation, it breaks open any type of katnus. And this is the way we practice amtakas adin, the sweetening of all din in our lives. And maybe we should help. We should Mamtik all the dinim, and we should have a shafa bracha and atzlacha.